All right, so in the last exercise, we were talking, or last video, I should say, we were talking about principles of animation. So we talked about things like squash and stretch, timing slash spacing, arcs, peel, secondary action, anticipation. What else we talk about? Solid drawing. Bibbidi bobbidi boom. Follow through. One, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight. Missing four. What am I missing? Squash and stretch, timing, arcs, follow through. Slow in, slow out. Pose to pose versus straight ahead. Exaggeration. Missing one more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 11. It's always that last one, right? What am I forgetting? Oh, staging. I always forget staging. Boom. Staging. All right. So let's try applying that. I'm just going to show some examples of applying not all of the principles, but just some of the principles. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make a ball that bounces. Okay. So I have a ball and it just literally is going to go boom, boom, boom. Okay. So first what I'm going to do is I'm going to just animate it without any of those principles. And then and then I'll go back and add some of those principles just to make the animation look a little smoother, in my opinion, a little better, in my opinion. So I'm just going to start. I'm going to start with this circle. I'm going to call this just, default animation. Okay. And what I will do is it's like, okay, the ball is going to go bounce and then up and then there. Okay. So I'm just going to do a keyframe so I can copy this and bring it down. And I'll turn on onion skin so I could see where it was before. Okay. Let's say the floor is here. So I'm actually just going to make another layer. Just draw like a line. Okay. That's going to bounce up. So I'll bounce up. Let's turn this on. Then it's going to come down again. And I'm kind of deliberately trying to make these all equidistant from each other. You'll see why in a little bit. And then it'll come up again. So I'm just trying to go as fast as possible, so You want to. All right. I'm just going to do that. And let's kind of loop this. I'm going to loop it from here to here. All right, let's play this back. All right. It's going really fast. I could try to kind of fix this a little bit by just kind of adding in frames. So I'm adding in a frame so that every drawing really acts for 2 frames long as opposed to 1. That'll help a little bit. It's still, not going to be great. Technically, this might fall under like timing of the first, principles. So let's play. All right. A little better, a little less, crazy town, but not great. Let's try doing this again. But this time, what I'm going to do is we're going to add a little slow in. Okay. Now, what I mean by that is, oops, I didn't mean to do that. I'm just going to copy this and paste it to here. Okay. And slow in would mean that because my object is gaining in speed, there'll be more drawings kind of at the beginning. And then the longer it falls, it's falling with gravity. So the distance between them is going to be slower. Then when it bounces, it's fighting against gravity. So there'll be quicker momentum here, but then it's going to slow down. And then as it falls, this will happen again where it starts to, do that. So let's try that out. Hopefully that kind of made sense to everybody. All right, so I'm just going to do kind of the same thing as before, but I'm going to use, this is where onion skin can be helpful to sort of see where the last drawing was, because that's going to play into how we do this. And so you can see like I'm getting more distance between, so it's like, And like I said, the point of this is to kind of mimic physics, because as objects fall, they gain in speed because they're falling with gravity. The gravity is adding momentum. When you bounce up, you're fighting against gravity. So now this is bouncing here, and it's going to bounce pretty fast because it's losing some momentum, but it's still got a lot of speed because it hasn't had to fight gravity yet. So the next one would kind of be still kind of far up like this, maybe. And then the next ones after that, it kind of slows down and they get closer and closer to each other like this. Okay. Then it's going to fall again. So it starts slow because once again, it's falling. Technically when you throw a ball up, when it stops rising, its speed is technically 0. The gravity is pushed against it so much that the speed has literally caused it to stop. But then when it falls again, now it's gaining again in speed. So in my next one, it's going to be kind of like that. And then it's going to gain in speed. And then pretty much just repeat the cycle again. Oops. And then it's falling, so it's going to fall with gravity. Okay, so let's turn off this. Let's play this back. See how that feels a little bit better? So this is like the original where, oops, this is kind of the original where the distance between them is kind of equidistant. Here I've done, this is that slow in, slow out. Okay. So you can kind of see it's gaining speed and then slowing up and slowing down and slowing up and slowing down. Okay. So this is definitely has slow in, slow out being applied to it. Now let's try to add a little squash and stretch to it. So what that means is as my object is falling, it should start to stretch a little bit. So, you can kind of decide where you want that. So really, probably about here, it should start to stretch a little bit. You can draw that, or I'm just gonna like kind of do like not a lot, like it's not stretching too much at this point. But then when it gets to here, it should really be stretched. Now, the thing about when you do squash and stretch, this is a very important technique and task. So please remember this. When squashing and stretching, your object should maintain the same volume. Okay, now what do I mean by that? Well, your object is not growing or shrinking. So if you have an object and it's stretching it, like if I was doing this, technically now it's like the object, the volume or the matter that makes up the object has grown, like to here, right? So the rule of thumb is if you start to stretch, you should change the width to match it so that it feels like it hasn't, like you can stretch an object, but you shouldn't feel like the volume has changed. So even though this is taller, this one is wider. So it kind of feels roughly like the volume is the same, even though this one is taller. Or if you want to squash it, you would take, I would take this. And it's like if I was squashing it in the same way, if you change the height and the height gets smaller, then I would want the width to get wider to match up for the fact that this, the volume. So even though these are three different sizes, they roughly feel like the same volume. This one maybe feels a little too big. I don't know. Maybe like that. Okay. So when I'm doing this, make sure that, if you're changing the height, that you're also changing the width and vice versa. Okay. So my object is falling. This is where it's going to start to squash. So the height comes down to squash it. The volume comes out. Now I could redraw it too. I should probably do that, but I'm just trying to go relatively quickly here. And then once again, this one is going really fast. And so when you have speed on something, you do kind of want it to be kind of stretched a little bit. But then as it slows down, it comes back to its true form. And then it falls again. So this would be stretched. Squash. This should come down. If that comes down, this should go out to maintain the volume. Okay. All right, let's turn my onion skin off. And so now See, that feels a little more elastic, has a little more bounce to it, a little more oomph to it. I know that's very vague, but you know, it's like, here's the original, right? Feels very rigid, right? Well, here it's like, okay, there's some squash and stretch. And to be honest, I'd even add a little more. The timing feels a little off. I might even add some drawings here. I'd have like a reaction where it bounces and then comes back up and then bounces. This could probably fall under timing. So timing, you know, when we talk about spacing, spacing was the distance between, you know, your to make it look like the timing was right. So if, you know, if my object is bouncing up, it's faster at the beginning of the bounce than later. That's the spacing to make it all look like it's following physics. Timing is like not fast or too slow. If my thing, you know, so does this feel right? It feels pretty good. I'd probably hold this last frame a little bit. To be honest, I'd probably come in here. I want another reaction shot, so I'm gonna move all this stuff down. See how that works. That's a little bit to it too. Okay. All right, so that's just using some basic, you know, I mean, if you wanted to add some of these others, you know, I could add um, solid drawing and make my circle look more three-dimensional. So what that would mean is like, let's say this is a ball. You know, the ball could be kind of moving while it's drawing. Oops, did I draw on the wrong layer? I'm trying to make this like three-dimensional thing kind of, you know. Okay. I'm not gonna do all of it, but you know, well, I don't even know if that really helped too much, but that's like, see like solid drawing there. It's like turning while that's going on. So that'd be like an instance of like solid drawing, making something seem three-dimensional. All right, so that's, you know, an example. I'm gonna do one more where I'll have a ball bouncing across a page, and we'll apply some of these as well. Well, where we'll have arcs, squash and stretch, timing, and slow in and slow out to help apply these principles to make our animation look better. Okay.